everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
You can put it on the board. Yes! He could go all the way.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA, prime Angus, and Wagyu steaks and chops. White Tea tastes their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all, those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, and a big welcome in everybody listening in on radio and television, on all of our network affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching on television, thanks for doing that as well. Everybody listening in on your favorite streamer, thanks for doing that as well. By the way, folks, right from the very top, our friends over at Vacation Buddies are giving away a couple of nights in Las Vegas, right here in Las Vegas, or Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri, a really big entertainment mecca. If you can answer this simple trivia question, that's it. Answer the question, call the toll-free number, and have your shot to pick up a couple of nights right here in Vegas, Orlando, or Branson, Missouri. Here's the question. Which one of these NBA superstars won 6 NBA titles? Is it A, Shaquille O'Neal, B, LeBron James, C, Magic Johnson, or D, Michael Jordan? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Again, 888-576-5777. And remember, Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they want you to have a shot at a couple of nights here in Vegas or in Orlando or Branson, Missouri, if you know the answer to that simple trivia question. And, by the way, that number again, 888-576-5777. Nice round of applause for them. So we like to go to games. We like to go to baseball games. We like to go to football, hockey, basketball games. We like to go to games and cheer our teams on to victory. And along with that, let's just go, look, this is something we've done since grade school. In grade school, what do they have? They have, I remember from Pee Wee football and whatnot, watching those games. What do they have? They have cheerleaders. And cheerleaders get the crowd going, right? They root their teams on to victory. They get the crowd excited about their teams on top of what's going on the field. And let's face it, if the teams are doing really bad, at least the cheerleaders are supposed to be energetic, athletic, and get people to stay in the game, so to say. In fact, there is a long history of cheerleaders, and this goes all the way back to the late 1800s. That's right, at American universities across America. That's right, initially as male-dominated activity focused on leading crowd cheers at football games. Over time, it evolved into more athletic and organized activities, of course, with women joining the ranks and eventually becoming the dominant participants. But men were at the very beginning of it, in case you didn't know that. Key developments included the formation of the first cheerleading squad, the introduction of a more advanced technique, and not a more advanced technique, we'll just say competitions and routines and this, that, and the other. Now, I've seen some of these things on TV, and I'm sure you have too, and also the establishment of the National Cheerleaders Association. So looking at it a little bit deeper, in the late 1800s to early 1900s, cheerleading emerged as a way to boost school spirit and organize crowd participation at football games, as I mentioned. Now, the first organized cheerleading squad was formed at the University of Minnesota. It's ironic that I'm saying that. The University of Minnesota in 1898 with men leading cheers and chants. Now, if you want to fact check that, because there are fact checks, there are all kinds. You can go look at Encyclopedia Britannica, right? So there's a scholarly journal of sorts. You also have the centraldigest.com and a whole host of others. But the women really got into the rodeo in about, we'll say the 1920s, maybe 1930s. But it was during World War II that women became a dominant force as the men left for military service. So there was a standardization, and the competition actually really took place. There was a guy by the name of Herkimer, but you can call him Herky. Lawrence Herky, but you call him Larry. Larry Herky, we'll call him. Played a crucial role in standardizing cheerleading techniques, including the Herky jump, pom-poms, and forming the NCA in 1961, according to cheer.epicsports.com. This marked a shift towards more athletic routines with stunts, tumbling, and pyramids, and so forth. And we've all seen those. We've seen movies about that kind of stuff, and we see it on TV on Pick Your Favorite Sports channel and, geez, even your favorite network on the weekend. And so competitive cheerleading really picked up some ground in the 1970s, and by the 1990s, it was recognized as a sport in its own right, with the four-letter network officially labeling it as such, according to study.com. And today, cheerleading is a global activity with strong emphasis on athleticism, teamwork, and performance, encompassing various styles and levels of competition. I mean, look, just like with the Olympics, let's take the Olympics for a second. Now, they have a lot of those Olympians have the skills that the cheerleading teams use, whether it's tumbling, some acrobatics, whatever. In dance, they have choreographers that put together their routines and so forth. So you take the floor exercise in the, I think that's the Winter Games, if I'm not, what is the Winter Games? Summer Games. The floor exercise competition, it's kind of a big deal with all the gymnastics and this, that, and the other, but that's one of them. And so there's all the tumbling, there's dance involved, there's timing, there's all kinds of stuff involved when it comes to that. That's a really big deal when it comes to gymnastics, women's gymnastics and the Olympics. That's an enormous deal. The floor exercise thing is one of the most exciting things to watch with all the tumbling acts and so forth. Now they do have that springboard floor, so they could do round off back flips, whatever, and then they can keep going and going on the back flips over and over. You see them like, seemingly they'll go for like 20, 30 feet or maybe even longer, maybe 50 foot of backflip. And it's fun to watch. But they also, I wouldn't say they're cheating, but they have a floor that enables them to do that. However, that's important because a lot of those moves are the same moves that you see in these cheerleading competitions and so forth. So there's a lot of crossover there. You say, well, is it really legit? Yeah, it is legit. In fact, one of our analysts here on the show, that's the great Anthony Davis, of course. AD is our college football analyst. Of course, he always deserves a nice round of applause. But his daughter was a Raiderette for some years, and I talked to his daughter about what it takes to do this kind of work, and it is remarkably demanding. So not only were you probably a good gymnast, but you're also a good dancer and everything else. And you're also in tremendous condition too. So yeah, I mean, we have to give cheerleading a really big thumbs up. And whether you like it or not, or whether you understand it or not, I mean, these are athletes in their own right. And the funny thing is, when you look at the pay of the cheerleaders, the professional cheerleaders, that's a whole nother discussion. Maybe we'll mention it a little bit later on. But modern cheerleading today is a really big deal. And it's such a big deal that it appears on Pick Your Favorite Sports channel, and there is enormous sponsorship to the cheerleading programming that's on television, whether it's from This manufacturer, I don't want to say any names because they're not paying us any money. So I will as soon as they do what?
Show me the money!
That's right. And then I'll broadcast your name. But anyway, if you understand, then obviously, I'm not going to say it without getting paid. But nonetheless, the point is, the cheerleading is a really big deal. And so it's not just necessarily for keeping the fans motivated, because there are special sponsorship deals with the pro sports teams and even the college teams with the name, image, and likeness. I'm sure they've gotten into the act of that as well. There are scholarships for the gymnasts and for cheerleading and all kinds of things now. And you say, well, wait a minute. Do we have a mix in that, just like history tells us? Well, history tells us that good old Larry Herkimer, right, Mr. Herky, he has, of course, the Herky jump and stuff like that, and introducing the pom-poms and formating the NCA, right? And so that's the National Cheerleader Association. So why is it significant we're talking about this? Well, I'll tell you why in the next segment. Because as we take a deeper dive into it, we say, well, it's sideline entertainment, whether it's football, football or basketball. We'll just stick with football and basketball. And it is entertainment, but it's also highly skilled athletes out there doing what? They're performing in the same way that the players are, but in their own right for what they're doing. Just like a baseball player who could switch hit from the left and right side. Well, guess what? These people could do the same thing. They could tumble, they could dance, they could do all kinds of neat stuff. Am I defending him? Absolutely, I'm defending him. Don't go anywhere. You're going to like this one. It's a little unusual, but then again, so am I. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Don't go anywhere.
My, isn't this an awkward moment?
Excellent.
She got out.
Excellent.
I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it out here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportcircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you can use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. A big welcome back to everybody listening in on our affiliate over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM. Thanks for waking up with us over in Auburn, Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, and Columbus, Georgia. Thanks for driving home with us and listening in on WAUD 1230 on the AM dial. That's home of the Atlanta Braves. Welcoming everybody up and down the Midwest, throughout the heartland, out to the West Coast, those driving between LA and Las Vegas, listening in on Highway Country Radio, 101.5 FM and 107.3 FM. That's also home of the Raiders and home of the Vegas Golden Knights. Also, a big welcome to everybody all the way up from San Francisco to Seattle to Anchorage, all the way down to Honolulu, CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the Yankees, 49ers, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Plus, everybody watching in on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, WOW, and Charter, plus independent cable affiliates in select markets. And welcome into everybody also on Hotel TV where applicable. And in case you're just joining us, in the first segment, we gave away the possibility of a couple of nights in Las Vegas, Orlando, or in Branson, Missouri, if you knew the answer to a very simple trivia question by Vacation Buddies. They're the one giving it away, not me. But I'm going to go ahead and give you another spin on it. So if you didn't get that one, I'm going to give you another one. And here it is. Which of these NBA superstars won 6 NBA titles? I'm going to shuffle the deck on you a little bit here. Is it A, Magic Johnson, B, Michael Jordan, C, Larry Bird, or D, Kobe Bryant? If you know the answer to that trivia question, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Also, remember Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they would like to have you pick up a couple of nights at Vegas, Orlando, or Branson if you know the answer to that simple trivia question. If you do, call them right now, 888-576-5777. All righty. Oh, by the way, this segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. All right, back here with this discussion on, I mentioned in the last segment the history of cheerleaders and why and so forth. And of course, this was really males, in case you didn't know, in case you're just tuning in right now. Just remember, it was initially as a male-dominated activity for focusing on leading crowd cheers at football games. Now, that's the origin. We're talking way back in the 1800s. And as a matter of fact, the first organized cheerleading squad was formed at the University of Minnesota in 1898 with men leading cheers and chants. And I remember going to a football game over in College Station, and that was the Texas A&M and Auburn War Eagle. It was that football game. It was in November of a handful of years ago, and it was really the same thing. They do have some cheerleaders there, and of course, there were men that were leading the charge for Texas A&M. Which I found very interesting. It was 105,000 people or something. It is one big-ass stadium. and I was doing sideline coverage right there for the network, listening down on the field. I got to tell you, folks, it is deafening. And that's the first time I've ever been on the field in a stadium with 100,000+ people, and man, was it loud. But when the cheers are led by guys and the men, it just seemed to be so much louder. And it's only because, in my opinion, their voices actually cut through the crowd, where women, if you listen to a women broadcaster, the voice is a little bit high and the voice gets lost in the audio of the actual game itself. So it makes sometimes the female announcer a little bit harder to hear. And so maybe the men that are announcing, or the men that are cheering their teams on to victory with these big loud megaphones or whatnot, maybe they're cutting through the crowd differently. I don't know. But from my own experience, it sure seems to me that that is a possibility. That's a real thing. And I mean, look, you could go and pick whatever your thoughts are on whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. We've already covered the history of it. But let's think about the idea of, there was a cheerleading renaissance that happened way back in the 1940s all the way to the 1990s. A lot of things have happened in that whole cheerleading world, and we talked about competitions and so forth. There's a lot of stuff going on with it. But how about this? In the National Football League, because this was a football situation in the first place. Now, the University of Minnesota started this in 1898, many years ago. Now, in the NFL, several NFL teams do not have cheerleaders, including the Buffalo Bills, Chicago Bears, Cleveland Browns, LA Chargers, New York Football Giants, New York Jets, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I remember many years ago, I used to date a honey bear from the Chicago Bears, one of the old cheerleaders. That was way back in the time machine. I won't even get into the details. And I have to tell you, when it was the next season after the Bears won the Super Bowl, that the Bears got rid of the cheerleaders. Now, they just basically felt, I guess they were a distraction. I don't know. But she was out of a job. And remember, a lot of the cheerleaders, they don't really make any money from doing that. They make small money. But also the modeling opportunities and the public appearances and this, that, and the other. And the Dallas Cowboys are still going strong with that. And their cheerleaders make about, I think, somewhere around $75,000 a year. It's a pretty damn good living. It's more than the average earner in the United States, which is right around 50-odd thousand. So just the cheerleaders working a smaller amount of hours per week are making really good money. And the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders are working around the year, too. It's not just in football season. However, back to the teams that don't. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they said, apparently the cheerleaders wish to wear outfits that were more modern and daring. But in response, the owner fired the team. What? I mean, the last squad of Steelerettes left the field after the 1969 season. That's the first year of Hall of Fame head coach Chuck Noll and defensive tackle Mean Joe Green. I mean, you're talking 1969. They said, no, you're not going to wear anything racy here. No, we're not going to be doing that one. And why do the Giants have no cheerleaders? Now, owners and founders of 3 teams without cheerleaders, being the Bears, the Packers, and the football Giants, each had stated at some point that the use of cheerleaders was inconsistent with their organization's value. And Green Bay may have been motivated by this reason as well. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, I knew some of the cheerleaders on some of the other teams as well, like I had mentioned. But I have to tell you, I don't really know much about the inner workings. Remember I had mentioned Texas A&M with the guys leading the cheer? Well, here's an interesting thing, and I just mentioned this a little bit ago. So this is according to the search engine that rhymes with noodle. And they say, if you ask, why doesn't Texas A&M have cheerleaders? They say Texas A&M University does not have a traditional cheerleading squad, as I mentioned. Instead, they have yell leaders who are elected by student body and lead the crowd in spirited yells during the games. Folks, I got to tell you, they are loud also. Now, the tradition dates back to the early 1900s when Texas A&M was an all-male, and the role of leading the crowd was given, of course, to what? Male students. And so the yell leaders themselves are a group of students, currently 5 in number, 3 seniors and 2 juniors, who are elected by the student body to lead the crowd in yells and coordinate crowd participation. And boy, are they good at it too. And it's a very unique tradition. So, I mean, look, this is very unique to Texas A&M, and it's a core part of the university's game day experience, which I experienced it. It absolutely is. It's a big deal. And so while the university does have a competitive cheer squad, as I mentioned, they are not the primary group leading the crowd during the game. Maybe it's to the voice thing that I had mentioned. I don't know. But the tradition of yell leaders stems from the university's early history as an all-male institution, and the role of leading the crowd was, of course, given to male students. And then you have the passbacks. So yell leaders use hand signals to passbacks to direct and intensify the yells during the games. Now, if you don't know what this is, you might want to go check this out on pick your favorite streaming platform that shows videos, and you could see exactly what that is about. And the first time I saw it, I'm like, what the hell's going on here? But it was really a cool thing, and man, was it loud. So out of there was maybe about 5,000 Auburn fans at the game, but out of the 100,000 A&M fans that were there, I got to tell you, man, they were engaged. And that's why it's such a tough place to play. I get it. After being there, it's a different dynamic than watching it on TV because you don't understand unless you're there. So going to the game there, boy, that is a very different experience. Tell you what, we're going to continue with this back in just a few minutes right here on the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it out here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello, Americans. It's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time. That's 800-950-2049.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. How do you not love that music? I'm Tom Brenneman.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Remaster Cell, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure to check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, our prior guests, recorder shows, which can be found on all streaming platforms, including Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, plus a whole bunch of others. Also, make sure to check out the partners page. Lots of great partners over there. And, of course, musically speaking, one of our favorites is the music of Jason Owens, country music star. Check him out at jasonowensmusic.com. And he has played Vegas, 250, 300 times, whole bunch of shows there. And he's playing the big houses, the MGM Grand, the Resort World, Old Red. He's playing all the big places, not the little 2-bit joints. No, this guy is good. He's an up-and-coming star. He's Kentucky-based. And it's just one of those guys. You like him. He plays traditional country music. He's got a great fiddle player, a very good drummer. Look, end of day, they put on a really good show. Check them out, jasonowensmusic.com. And they're constantly touring. And I'll tell you what, check them out. Tell them the circus sent you, and I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Follow them on social media, on Spotify and Twitter or X or whatever, and Facebook as well. And that's just simply at Jason Owens or at Jason Owens Music, that is. Jason Owens Music on all those social media platforms and where you stream music. Again, Jason Owens. Check them out, folks. All right, welcome back to everybody. Welcome back to everybody on TV and radio and streaming, that is. Everybody on Chicago Food Favorites, by the way. Thanks for joining us on Facebook on Chicago Food Favorites, a fun group. Talk about your favorite foods, your favorite restaurants, your favorite recipes. Makes your friends have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. I started that page, a couple of years ago or so, and I think there's about 3,300 members of the group now, and it's just an organic group, and there's no spamming. I am the administrator for it, so don't spam it. I will strike your account immediately if you spam it. And believe me, I'll do it too. And I may have to take you out as far as get you off the page and out of the group as well. So just don't spam it. Have some fun with it, though. There's lots of great food. I post on there every day, and it's just fun, and it's free, and you can really make some friends there and have some fun with it. Anyway, Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. So talking about the cheerleaders, as we mentioned, I had left off with Texas A&M basically being a traditional school where it was an all-male institution at one point, and that's what they had. They had the guys that are the yellers and yell leaders and stuff like that. And boy, they get that stadium rolling down there. I think it's Bryan Field. They got 100,000 people in there yelling and screaming for their team. And boy, it's a tough place to play. But we were talking about the NFL and which teams do have cheerleaders, which teams don't, better yet. And in fact, the Giants and the Bears and the Packers and, well, a few other teams, they don't have them. But why don't the Chicago Bears have cheerleaders? So the Bears don't have them because Virginia McCaskey, who had passed away, the team's previous owner, believed the cheerleaders are sexist and degrading to women. So the decision is a long-standing one, and she reportedly stated that as long as she owns the team, they will not have cheerleaders. Now that's kind of interesting because now she has passed away. I wonder if the Chicago Bears are going to bring cheerleaders back. I mean, hell, the Bears are moving to suburban Arlington Heights out on the other side of O'Hare Airport, so it's actually much more convenient, and they could build a gigantic setup, kind of like they have right here in Vegas with the Allegiant Stadium, or over in Atlanta with their Mercedes-Benz stadium they have there, whatnot. And the Bears will finally be able to host a Super Bowl. And so I guess since Virginia McCaskey is no longer alive, it would stand to reason that the possibility of cheerleaders could return. But McCaskey's stance was that, look, the daughter of George Halas, in case you didn't know, she was the driving force behind the team's decision to get rid of the cheerleaders in the first place. Now, if you don't believe that, you can find that on Windy City Gridiron or Wikipedia or whatnot. And so there's a little historical context to it. In the team's previous cheerleading squad, as I had mentioned, I knew a honey bear. I used to date a honey bear. They were disbanded after the 1985 Super Bowl win, with Virginia McCaskey citing concerns about the cheerleaders' image and their potential, chaos. We'll just call it that way. And of course, they say, well, there's no change in sight, but I don't believe that because now she's no longer with the team. And so why not bring the honey bears back? It's not like they're hurting anything. In fact, it gives the team another way to make a buck, I would imagine. And they say, well, there's no change in sight, but despite fan requests and attempts to bring back a cheerleading squad, McCaskey's stance was to remain firm, and her sons have indicated they will uphold her decision, which I got to tell you, I don't really buy into that one. No. Bring the honey bears back to Chicago. I think a lot of people want to see that. Anyway, it's a great name, too, by the way. And so as you look at the others, what about the Jets? Do the Jets have cheerleaders? Well, they have the flight crew cheerleaders. How you like that? Because they were one of the ones that did not. And which NFL team has never had cheerleaders? How about that one? Well, really the New York Football Giants. That's the team that doesn't have them, along with 6 others. And think about the Dallas cheerleaders. Now, the Dallas Cowboys, they're pretty smart about this. Their cheerleaders actually retire. Look, there are physical limitations as recent retirees. And of course, you think about how that works. And it's not really because of the pay. I think it's because they want them to stay young looking and whatever that means. I don't even know. And I mean, the bigger question is, how much do they make off it? Like I said, about $75,000. And so what about the Houston Texans cheerleaders? Can they have tattoos? There's something that in today's time, so many people have tattoos. They look like comic strip characters now. It's ridiculous if you look at all the tattoos. I mean, in my opinion, they are remarkably unsightly. I mean, really. They just, in my opinion, they look hideous at best. Of course, the Houston Texans. Yes, you can definitely have a tattoo. You just need to make sure that you cover it up with some makeup or it's covered by your outfit. So one of them says, can my family come to watch the auditions? And the answer was, no, your family cannot come and watch auditions. I don't blame them. And so what about the Minnesota Vikings? Boy, there is something that I got to tell you. This is a discussion in itself. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and turn my attention over to, I love this. I'm going to turn it over into Mr. Tuberville. And I like this. So let's go ahead and just put in Tuberville. Now, I know the story quite well. Tuberville, and I'm going to put Vikings cheerleaders. All right? So you can do the same thing along with me here. And you go ahead and hit your search bar, and you're going to find a ton of these. Well, let's just say a ton of these articles. Okay? So I'm going to pick the Daily Mail. And the Daily Mail, this I find rather interesting, right? So they say Senator slams woke Minnesota Vikings over male cheerleaders and wants the NFL to intervene. That's right. So former college football head coach and current United States Senator Tommy Tuberville wants the NFL to not lose its masculine image amid male cheerleaders being added to the league's squad. That's right. You heard that right. The Minnesota Vikings. Now, there's a little history there. Remember, the first cheerleaders, They were male cheerleaders where at the University of Minnesota in 1898. Anyway, let's carry on here. So the Vikings added 2 male cheerleaders to its sideline supporters. They're not cheerleaders, apparently. I guess they're sideline supporters now because they have to be politically correct or something like that for the first time. And a decision that has been slammed by some. Tuberville, and in his infinite wisdom, does not want to see the NFL fold into that inclusive narrative. Now, that comes about the same time as the rainbow armbands have been essentially removed from the NFL captains, and that's a league-wide decision. I think that's actually a good one, and I say that because there's a lot of reasons for it, but generally speaking, the NFL and the owners made a decision. That's not what we want, so I'm going to go ahead and applaud them. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, Tommy Tuberville, I believe it's Tommy. Yeah, Tommy Tuberville. I just wanted to get the first name right. Says, quote, if you're going to be woke and if you're going to try to take men out of the men's sports, take the men out of the men's sports. That's right. That's what I said. Which is what they're doing. They're trying to take gender and try and make it more about gender than about masculinity. Then you're going to have a huge problem, is what he said. He continues on with, you could see Minnesota doing it. They're one of the blue states. We've lost them. And they're more into socialism, and it's about 150 genders. But at the end of the day, I hope to God it doesn't come south, close quote. Now, that's by Tommy Tuberville. And now, look, he goes on. In fact, you know what we're going to do? We're going to stop right there and pick this up on the other side of the break. And look, you can make an argument for and you can make an argument against it. My job is to do neither. I can give my opinion just like you have an opinion. And me personally, I'll save my opinion to the end. But this is pretty interesting stuff. You don't really get this kind of controversy on Pick Your Favorite Station because they're worried about the money getting funny. We don't give a damn. We want to give you the story as it is. You make a decision if you support it or not. Back here in a few minutes on the Sports Circus. Yes, we're a circus, and we prove it every day. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, bud, what's your problem?
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today. Don't let your retirement accounts get caught off guard by trade and tariff wars. Learn why a Genesis Gold IRA is the number one choice for thousands of Americans across the nation. 800-709-4423. 800-709-4423. 800-709-4423. That's 800-709-4423.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure to check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, our prior guests, recorded shows, which can be found on our streaming platforms. Pick your favorite one, as well as check out the store. Lots of great items at the Sports Circus store. Hats, hoodies, t-shirts, coats, pants, sweatpants, and travel mugs, coffee mugs, pillows, mouse pads, you name it, they're all there with the clever Sports Circus logo on it. And folks, remember, those are American-made products. And of course, if you mention my name, your Ringmaster Sal, you'll get an extra 10% off of anything you pick up at thesportscircus.com. All right, welcome back to everybody on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Those watching on television as well in select markets. Thanks for joining us back here with this discussion on cheerleaders. And we left off with Tommy Tuberville talking about how the NFL is basically bringing some bad mojo or whatnot to the league, and they're killing masculinity within the NFL. I'm just paraphrasing, of course. This was from the Daily Mail. So mind you, this is from the other side of the planet. It's still coming in because it's such big news. And he says, quote, "This is not just about a couple of people being men cheerleaders. It's about pushing a narrative about wanting to put gender into sports and let everyone know that we're going to take the masculinity out of it a little bit. And that's not going to happen in the South," close quote. So the Daily Mail says the LA Rams became the first NFL team to have male cheerleaders, adding them, in 2018. I didn't even know that. In total, 12 NFL teams have male cheerleaders, including the New Orleans Saints. Again, I did not know that. Now, the Saints confirmed that there will be a total of 13 men on the 2025 Saints cheer crew, which of course that ship has already sailed. I didn't even know that when it started. But the point is, they have the Saints cheer crew, KREWE, roster, after 3 women were replaced following their tryouts. Now also the Panthers, the Buccaneers, the Chiefs, and let me add this for the Chiefs out there, the Colts, the Titans, the Patriots, 49ers, Eagles, Rams, and Ravens will all feature male cheerleaders in their squad. Now, of course, the Vikings male cheerleader, Blaze Sheik, appeared to take a dig at his critics after making his NFL debut recently. And a rookie member of the Vikings squad, Sheik is one of the 2 male cheerleaders joining the sidelines, along with Louis Kahn. However, Sheik and Khan's inclusion in the squad has sparked shocking backlash from NFL fans, with some of Minnesota supporters even threatening to cancel their season tickets. Oh, quote, "Wait, did someone say our name?" Close quote. Sheik wrote in the caption referencing the furor around their inclusion. Okay, so what is the deal with this? Look, there are teams that have it, teams that don't. And then you say, well, wait a minute, is football the only culprit in this situation? Well, not so fast. Not so fast. Because while male cheerleaders are more common in the NFL, some NBA teams have also embraced co-ed squads. The Phoenix Suns, for example, have featured male dancers in their Sun Dancers for several years, with Adrian Curiel and Khalil Harris being notable examples, according to azcentral.com and the Arizona Republic. That's their big newspaper. Now, mind you, the Indiana Pacers also had a co-ed squad called Pacer Pride in the past, according to Indianapolis Monthly, which included men performing alongside the Pacemates. Now, you notice the past tense is used there. I wonder what happened. Think about that. So the Phoenix Suns currently have it, but the Indiana Pacers says, I don't think so. You're not going to be doing that. So when you ask, well, apparently, I don't know about you, but going to a basketball, let's shift over to basketball for a second. And usually when there's a timeout on the court, whatever, they go to commercial TV timeout, and the dancers come out and perform on the basketball court. And let's face it, a lot of the people that are watching the games, that go to the games, and most of the patrons that go to the games are men. Most of them are. The demographics are there. Look at the stats on, pick your favorite stat sourcer of information. But reality is, most of the patrons right there in the audience, it's a male-dominated audience. And most men, I'm going to generalize here, I don't know what the stats are, but most men, I gather, in my opinion, want to see the females out there dancing, as that's what they like, generally speaking. Of course, that's generally speaking. I'm not speaking for all men. But what I even know from way back in the day of watching basketball when I was a kid, and it was much the same thing. And so it's different to see the men out there doing what they do, and they're very good dancers and so forth and so on. That's what they do, right? So, look, I'm not questioning their ability. What I'm questioning here is what the audience is paying for, what they believe they're paying for. The audience is paying a lot of money to be entertained, both between the whistles and after the whistles, for example, in a basketball game. They want to be entertained. And when you think of the demographic for who owns the ticket licensing for certain stadiums and who bought the tickets, who goes to the games, generally speaking, it's a male-dominated audience. And not every male wants to see males on the floor dancing. So be it. I don't really give a damn, because usually when it comes to TV timeouts and stuff like that, I'm getting food, I'm getting drinks, I'm at the bathroom. I don't really care. But especially if you have a seat that's on the floor at a basketball stadium, so you could sit right there in the front row across from the benches, which really is a bunch of chairs anyway, but you could sit across from the teams and you could see everything that's going on right up close, right there courtside. And so a lot of those people, I would imagine, they like the in-between whistle, or better yet, the after-the-whistle entertainment, which is, in many cases, those dancers. How does the audience members, how do the season ticket holders, the male season ticket holders, feel in Phoenix by having men on their dance squad? Do you think they care? Do you think they don't care? Do you think they could care less? Do you think it really matters? And we all have an opinion. And me personally, I imagine that if you took a poll, and it's funny, there's a game show, it's called Card Sharks, and you'd have to say a percentage of how many people believe this or that, whatever that is, whatever the question is. And so somebody would say maybe 65%. And so the other person has a chance to go higher or lower. So I'm going to say, in my opinion, that hypothetically, out of the audience that's watching a basketball game, and we'll say it's a male-dominated audience, I'm going to say 60% of the audience cares whether it's all female or not. And, of course, you could say higher or lower. I mean, who the hell knows what the answer is? I don't know. But the point is, it leads to revenue gains or losses, because what is this all about? Making money. That's it. End of day, the sport is there because the fans are there paying for it. The teams are there because the fans pay for it. And if you say, well, no, they played to empty stadiums in the pandemic area. Okay, fine. And they did. So the TV sponsors, then all of those sponsors, who buys the products? Males and females buy it. In some cases, there may be a male-dominated product. It may be a female-dominated product. I don't know. But what I'm trying to get at here is, how does it reflect on revenues? Just like with the Minnesota Vikings, some of their season ticket holders saying, hey, you're going to have male cheerleaders. We're going to give up our season tickets. And that is a direct hit on the bottom line for the Minnesota Vikings. So the question is, what about league-wide? What about on a city-by-city basis? Maybe some cities are a little bit more open to the idea than other cities. I don't know. What about in certain sports? Are some fans of certain sports more flexible on whatever's put out there for a product for entertainment during TV timeout? Is that the case? And how does that reflect into the bottom line? Does that make people angry? Does it make them not want to spend money? Does it make them want to go home? Does it make them want to turn the channel if they happen to get that entertainment through a TV timeout, so to say, but they don't go to break? Because the reason that happens, folks, by the way, in case you don't know, if there's a TV timeout, for example, on basketball games, and they don't go, or even in football too, and they don't go to a commercial, that's because they couldn't sell a spot. So maybe pick your favorite beverage company or snack company could not or did not want to buy the spot from the network at that time or from the affiliate. So therefore, they stay right there on the field. They say, well, we're going to stay right here during the timeout. You hear that a lot of times during football games and sometimes during hockey games. They'll stay there and they'll have shots of the benches, and the coaches having meetings. They'll try to normalize that. But reality is they couldn't sell those spots. So how does the male cheerleaders, if at all, how do they affect the bottom line? That's really what this show is about today. So normally at the end of the show, during the last few minutes of each show, I'm going to come away with some kind of a takeaway for you, the audience member, to think about as to cause-effect relationships. I don't do a rapid-fire show, and for a minute and 41 seconds, we're going to cover this. For a minute and 43, we're going to cover that. And there are some shows that are really good at that. And there's one on the 4-Letter Network that I like. They do that, and they have a bell, like a boxing bell, and then they go to the next topic. That's a good show. I like it. But the point is, they develop the content to a certain level, then they move on. Whereas I will take the content and I will extrapolate some data out of it, and then I will make either a qualitative or a quantitative leap of reasoning as to how it affects people just like you and me. That's the difference between this program and many others, because I want everyone to see how it potentially could affect us. And let's face it, if the revenues are down, what does that mean? If the revenues are down for our local team, that means that either A, they have to raise the ticket prices or potentially black out the games on television, which means that we potentially can't watch the games on TV because the owners want people to buy the tickets, go to the games, and watch the games there. That's what we faced in Chicago for our hockey teams and our baseball teams and our football team. We had all that because of money. So money rules everything, and that's why this stuff is important. If you think it's not important, guess again, folks. It's very important. That's all the time we have for today. We'll see you next time in about 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. That's 800-814-8628.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.